So what is menstrual cycle? So in the male reproductive system, we know that is the sperms are get produced constantly, but concerned to the female reproductive system, it does not take place constantly. In the each menstrual cycle, each ovary, out of two ovaries, one ovary one by one alternately produces one ova in the per menstrual cycle. That is the ovary. That is the menstrual cycle. The female attains puberty at about the age of 12 to 14 years. We know that in the male reproductive system, after puberty, male constantly produces the sperms constantly. While in the female reproductive system, after puberty, that is the time of puberty is near about 12 to 14, in between 12 to 14 years. So in average, it is called as in the 13th age of a female is called as the time of puberty. So at the time of puberty, puberty begins with the secretion of the follicle stimulating hormone. At the time of puberty, the pituitary gland secretes the hormone, that is the follicle stimulating hormone, which introduce some changes in the female reproductive system, as well as some other secondary sexual characters are also get developed in the female body. So what kind of changes are takes place in the female reproductive system and the female body? That is the first one, the ovaries and secondary, the ovary get developed, that is the each primordial follicle. Now one of out of the millions of primordial follicle, one primordial follicle is get developed in the Graafian follicle, as well as some secondary sexual characters are also get developed. We know that the secondary characters, which are the secondary characters, that is the so many secondary characters are there. Okay, so next one, that is a mature human male produces sperm constantly, but female never produces ova constantly. It shows a cyclic patterns of 28 days, and that is this cycle takes place 28 days for the production, that is the formation of Graafian follicle from the primordial follicle, and that cycle is called that cycle takes place 28 days. So each menstrual cycle lasts for 28 days. The cycle of reproductive physiology is called as menstrual cycle. So whatever events which are takes place during these 28 days of that is the beginning, that is the primordial follicle, and end, that is the degeneration of the corpus albicans, that is called as the menstrual cycle. Whatever events takes place in that 28 days called as menstrual cycle. The next one, the menstrual cycle takes place in the 4 phases, and these 4 phases, that is the so many changes are takes place, but for our understanding these are divided into 4 phases. That is the first one is menstrual phase, while the second one is proliferative phase, the third one is ovulatory phase, and the fourth one is that is the luteal phase. So we are going to understand these are the 4 phases which are takes place in the, that is the each menstrual cycle. The first one phase we are going to understand now, that is the menstrual phase. So that is the cycle of 28 days. So this cycle, that is the first phase, that is the menstrual phase, begins with the first day of cycle, that is the, and it lasts for 5 days. It lasts for 5 days. Now the next second one phase that takes place, that begins with the 6th day of the menstrual cycle and ends near about the 13th day of the menstrual cycle. And the third one phase, that is the ovulation phase or ovulatory phase, takes place at the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. Well, that is the smallest phase of the menstrual cycle, and it lasts for only 1 day. Now the next one, that is the next one, luteal phase. Luteal phase begins in the 15th day of menstrual cycle and ends at the 28th day of menstrual cycle. So that is the cycle which begins with the first day of menstrual cycle, that is the bleeding. In which day bleeding takes place, that day considered as a first day of menstrual cycle, while the last day before the bleeding day is called as the last day of menstrual cycle. So that is the 28th day cycle is menstrual cycle. So whatever changes we are going to understand in each phase, that is the menstrual phase first. So what is menstrual phase? That is the definition of the menstrual phase is, this is the phase during which bleeding occurs, called as menstrual phase or post-luteal phase, or that is the proliferative phase, or it is proliferative phase. Okay, post-luteal phase or pre-proliferative phase, follicular phase, it is called as pre-follicular phase. So why it is called as, we are going to understand, that is, it is also called as, it is called as menstrual phase. But why it is called as post-luteal phase? We know that that is the fourth phase is luteal phase, and that after luteal phase it takes place, that menstrual phase takes place. So it is called as post. Post means after. After luteal phase it takes place, so it is called as post-luteal phase. Why? While it is also called as follicular, that is the pre-follicular phase. Why pre-follicular phase? Because after menstrual phase, follicular phase, proliferative phase going to take place, so it is called as pre-follicular phase. So it lasts the duration, it begins with the bleeding, and that day is considered as a first day of menstrual phase also and menstrual cycle also. It generally lasts for 4 to 5 days. Whatever changes going to understand, we are going to understand in the menstrual phase. So in the changes, whatever changes are going in each phase, that get divided in the 2 or 3 categories. That is the whatever changes takes place in the ovary, or we are going to understand separately. Then the whatever changes are going to take place in the uterus, we are going to understand. And whatever hormonal changes are also going to take place, we are going to understand through these slides. Okay, so the first one, whatever ovarian changes are takes place in the menstrual phase, that is the when the fertilization does not take place, then the corpus luteum starts degenerating and into a corpus albicans, and after that the menstrual phase going to take place. So which kind of hormonal changes are going to take place, which begins the menstrual cycle and menstrual phase, we are going to understand the hormonal changes. As the corpus luteum degenerated into corpus albicans, level of progesterone in the blood declines. That is the due to degeneration. We know that the corpus albicans produces the hormone progesterone, which maintain the pregnancy and that prevent the formation of the next follicle. So after degeneration of corpus albicans, progesterone, the production of progesterone stops, and that's why it get decline. What is the result of that decline of the progesterone in the blood? That is the next one. That is at the same time the maturation of Graafian follicle present, so estrogen level also decreases. The estrogen, the Graafian follicle, whatever is get produced in the that is the last menstrual cycle, which secretes the hormone estrogen. That estrogen, the level that Graafian follicle is get degenerated, or that is the get thrown out of the body in the last in that menstrual phase. So now the production of estrogen is get stopped. So that's why both the hormones, the production of both the hormone, that is the progesterone and estrogen, is now declines in the blood. So what is the result of that? During this phase, progesterone and estrogen level is minimum in the blood, and now the decreased level of progesterone and estrogen stimulate anterior pituitary to secrete FSS, which starts the next phase. That is it is a message. It is a chemical message. We are called enzymes and hormones. That is, these are the chemical messages, and these are the chemical message. That is, the progesterone and estrogen is not present in the blood. It means we have to start the next menstrual cycle, and that chemical message is gives to the ovary with the help of, that is, the follicle stimulating hormone, and that follicle stimulating hormone is get secreted by pituitary gland is now gives the chemical message to the ovary, that is you start the next menstrual cycle, and that's why the next menstrual cycle begins. That is now we are studying about this menstrual cycle. Okay, so whatever uterine or endometrium changes takes place in the menstrual phase, that is in the last menstrual cycle, whatever endometrium is get thickened, that degeneration of these endometrium starts in this phase. That is due to lower level of progesterone and estrogen, endometrium get collapsed, which becomes 0.5 to 1 mm thick. That is in the last menstrual cycle, the thickness of endometrium is near about, that is the near about 3 mm in the thickness, while now after collapsing, that is the endometrium, that is the rupturing of that blood vessels, and that is the out of throwing that is the endometrium fluid, the thickness is now decreasing, and it is now 0.5 to 1 millimeter thick now. So this collapsed endometrium and unfertilized egg, 15 to 100 ml blood, some mucus, cell debris get discharged out of the body through vaginal orifice, and is called as menstrual flow, or it is called as menstruation. So it is called as weeping of uterus for the loss of baby. Now next, whatever changes are going to take place in the ovary as well as simultaneously in the that is the ovum, we are going to understand with the help of this graph. So okay, so now whatever changes going to take place in the ovarian cycle, we are going to understand first. That is the primordial follicle. Now the primordial follicles are now get converted into primary follicles first, while in the menstrual phase first we are going to understand. Now the next one, that is the whatever uterine menstruation, whatever uterine changes are going to take place, we are going to understand with the help of second graph. That is the first menstrual phase, concentrate toward the first menstrual phase, that is the menstruation takes place, and the endometrium become that is the somewhat low thickness is takes place. Now the next one, that is the okay, so menstrual phase, in that menstrual phase, whatever hormonal changes are takes place, we are going to understand. Now the next one, that is in the first menstrual phase, that is the level of various hormone, that is the luteinizing hormone as well as that is the progesterone is get declined, while the that is the follicle stimulating hormone, the raising, we can see the raising in the follicle stimulating hormone is there. Okay, so now the next one, that is the whatever. Okay, now